Hello and thank you so much for joining me tonight. Tonight is some fun midweek crafting, and I thought today we would break out those designer papers that are super bright, super bold, that we don't use very often because often they're too in your face to use on a project. That's what we're going to use tonight. They are perfect for tonight. So this is a die set that has been sat on my desk for a good few weeks. I bought it quite a while back and it's been sat there staring at me. It's a huge happy birthday die and it's really fun. I don't know if it's available or not anymore, but I will link it if I can find it. This piece of paper is a scrap in my collection. I have used it on about 6 different cards and I absolutely love it. I can't let it go. And so tonight we're going to use that because it's beautiful, it's bright, it's bold. I absolutely love the stunning pattern on it. As you can see, I've cut lots of things out of it. It's quite a mess, but my die fits in that little scrap bit just perfectly. What I like to do is I like to make my cards based on whatever cardstock I've got in my collection. So I will cut this to fit my die, and then I will cut a card base and everything else I need to fit that. So whatever dies you've got in your stash, if you've got some word dies, this works great. Even if you just have shape dies, this will be a good fun project. So whatever you've got in your stash, you should be able to use something to make tonight's project. Now I'm trimming this down just to get some nice even numbers. I like really nice even numbers. Otherwise, I find it's more difficult to do my measurements because I always like my cards and my layers to be either half a centimeter or a centimeter in difference in size. So my black panel is going to be cut down to be smaller than my bold bit of paper. You'll see why we're doing that in just a second. First, I'm going to glue it onto my card base so that it's nice and ready. I've got a little tiny border around the edge. And then my panel, I'm actually going to cut my happy birthday out of. Now, I for the life of me cannot remember what this technique is called, but we are going to die cut our die out of the panel and put the panel on. So we're using the sort of shadow of the die cut. We're not actually using the happy birthday itself. We're using the outer edge of it. I can't remember what the technique is called, but I'm going to change it ever so slightly so that we can use these bold papers and really let those papers shine without being too overwhelming, if that makes sense. So the first thing I'm going to do is this basic layer. This is sort of the basic version of how you can do it. We die cut out our words, pop that panel back on, make sure I've got lots of glue in and around all those little nooks and crannies so they don't pop up and catch on anything. Then to make it nice and easy, the biggest and best trick is to lay your die cut right back in the middle of your outer cut edge. So we are using the negative of our die cut for this project. Now, if you're using something that doesn't have anything intricate in the middle, let's say you die cut out a Christmas tree and it's just a tree shape, then you don't need to worry about any of this. You don't need to worry about putting your image back in to glue in those intricate pieces. You can just leave it as is. So the idea is that we're going to have that beautiful outer image, and that's what's going to make up our inner image. I don't know. By gluing these little pieces back in, it gives us that happy birthday a lot easier. It stands out a lot more and it looks a lot more natural. So there's our big, bold, printed image in the background. However, sometimes it's a bit nice to numb it down a little bit. So we're going to use vellum. And we're going to use those bright, beautiful, bold prints, but our vellum is going to kind of dull it down a little bit so that we can have that focal point in the middle of our card, but not be too distracted by all the colors and the pizzazz. But that's why we're also going to leave that outer edge, because we want to see that true and natural color, what that cardstock looked like in the beginning before we toned it down. So I'm going to share with you 2 versions of how you can do that and the kind of effects they give you when you have your card finished. So I've gone and done the exact same process. I've die cut out my little panel and taken the words right out of the middle. I'm going to apply my glue. And it does look like I'm very heavy-handed here. It does look like a lot of glue, but I'm applying it very, very thin. So my glue tip on my bottle is a very fine tip glue pen. And so it really applies very, very thinly. So you can see here, I'm putting that down, I'm squishing quite hard, but none of that glue is seeping out because it is a very thin amount of glue. I've just made sure to cover a lot of my area. So it looks really excessive, but I promise you, it's not actually that much because you can see here, it's not squidged out anywhere. So I placed that vellum panel over the back. I cut my vellum panel to be 1/2 centimeter smaller on 2 edges, so that I've got sort of 1/4 smaller on all edges. And then that way it fit really nicely behind my black panel without popping out at all. Then I can go ahead and weigh it down with some blocks. That's what I did first time around, except I didn't get the 2 biggest ones. I got a whole bunch of small ones. That just keeps it from warping a bit because I have used a liquid glue, and I find the vellum kind of curls a little bit easier when I don't use a liquid glue, or sorry, when I do use a liquid glue. So I've gone ahead and glued those layers down, done the same thing again where I've put my happy birthday back in so that I can add in all those little details that I die cut out, and you get that gorgeous happy birthday, but this time it's not so in your face as the first panel. Now, if you really love that background paper and you really want it to be the star of the show, you can just cut your panel bigger, and then that way more of that beautiful paper is on show. And I love that effect. I love the look of getting my words out there and the sentiment that I want to say, but I've got that gorgeous, really busy, loud paper, and it just works. So you can do it without the vellum, or you can add in that vellum to kind of tone it down if you feel like it's a bit too chaotic. Either way will work, but this is a great fun technique to use up those dies in your stash and use up that crazy amazing paper that you've got hoarding there in your piles. I hope you had fun with me tonight. I look forward to seeing you on Saturday for some Saturday night crafting. Take care and have a fantastic week. Bye.